Hims is releasing their earnings on May 11th, and it is a big one. From the Novo lawsuit to the Novo deal to the future of peptides, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. I'm going to go over what we can expect to see, what we should be looking for, and then also what I expect the stock price to do after the earnings. Let's get into it. All right, everyone, so Hims is releasing their earnings on May 11th, so I'm going to be telling you what to look forward to and what the possible stock reaction is. So if you can, please give me a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Let's get into it. So what to look for? We have the management guidance and versus market expectations. So projected Q1 revenue is between 600 to 625 million. This is notably lower than previous analyst estimates. So the analysts have continued to bring down how much they estimate Hims is going to be making. The consensus EPS for the upcoming quarter is about 2 to 4 cents, representing a significant year-over-year decline from 20 cents that they reported last year in quarter one. As you can see, announced date is May 11th. The estimate for the EPS is about 3 cents. Estimate for the revenue is about 616 million. And then all the revisions have been down for Hims. As you can see, the EPS has been continuing to go down. The good thing is, if you look at this, is this the bottom? It looks like the bottom, right? This could be the bottom of the earnings where they have now declined from all the investments, all the Novo stuff. After this, hopefully they just continue to go up, right? And that's the idea, that's the plan, and that's the hope for me, because I'm an investor, right? Last year, their revenue growth was 110% year over year. The year before that, 45%. And then the year before that, 88%, right? So the last 3 years have been really good. If the analysts are correct and they make around 615 million in revenue, first of all, it's less than what they made last quarter, which isn't great. But also, that's only going up about like 8% or something. That would be terrible looking on a chart like this where everything is in the high double digits to even we have a triple digit revenue increase, and yet if you go down, if you show an 8, that's going to look bad. And of course the EPS, it's a 2 cents, which we haven't seen 2 cents since 2023. It's going to be interesting. Again, they've done a lot of investments, but what's going to happen? Are they going to beat? Are they going to miss? Like, I do believe they're going to beat. As you can see, they mostly beat anyway, but we'll see. Number 2, weight loss segment and regulatory impact. So investors are going to be watching for the impact of a $65 million revenue headwind due to the changing of shipping cadences for the personalized weight loss medications to meet U.S. prescription regulations. I'm going to go over that in a second. And then investors will also look for updates on the Novo Nordisk patent lawsuit, and then any potential FDA restrictions on peptides. I'm going to go over both of those right now. Hims is anticipating the $65 million expense. Basically, to break this down easier, they had to shift from their personalized compounded GLP-1s to the branded ones. That changed how they do their fulfillment, how they do their shipping, and so that changed how they do it. For the patent lawsuit, there's no lawsuit anymore. There's no more. Novo Nordisk has dropped its patent infringement lawsuit. They made a deal with them. Also for the peptides, right? FDA actually just set up recently a meeting, and it's scheduled for July, and there's July 23rd, 24th, and then there's one set in February. And they're going to be discussing peptides and which ones should be reclassified, because right now there's some that are reclassified and you can't compound them, and so it's in a gray market area. So, but it says here July 23rd, 24. Those going to be, a lot of them are going to be reviewed to be legal again. And then, so this is the 4 that are going to be discussed on July 23rd. We have BP 157, KPV, TB 500, and MOTSR. I don't know all of these. And then we also have Emetiolitide Cmax and Epitolone. Again, I don't know all of these, but I know more about the generic of peptides than the actual how to pronounce all the special ones, right? So as of mid-April 2026, there is a high likelihood that the reclassification of these peptides is going to happen, lifting the restrictive Category 2 ban imposed by the FDA in 2023. So far, there's been signals that about 14 out of the 19 restricted peptides will be removed back, which then allows them to be legally compounded. In 2023, the FDA originally categorized those 19 peptides as too unsafe or unproven for compounding for the pharmacies to dispense. But then now there's a reevaluation. A recent advisory committee was scheduled to re-examine these safety claims, and the likely outcome is that multiple reports are saying that it is most likely going to be reversed and then back into the pharmacy's hands. If the reversal is finalized, legal compounding, pharmacies like Hims would be again able legally create custom formulations of these peptides for patients. Safety versus approval. Now, just because it got reclassified does not mean that the peptides are FDA approved, right? It just simply means they can be compounded. And then the market impact. Now, all of these substances go from a gray market back into a more regulated, medically supervised environment, which is better for everybody. Number 3 thing to look forward to, operational and growth metrics. Now, beyond the weight loss, watch for growth in verticals like sexual health, dermatology, and new offerings like labs and hormonal support. They also have international expansion. Revenue from international markets is expected to be a major 2026 driver, with at least $200 million in revenue contribution anticipated. Big major eucalyptus, that's going to be a big major contributor. And then subscriber metrics. Look for stability in monthly online revenue per average subscriber, which reached $83 in late 2025. So about all their products, right? Weight loss, yes, we know it's great. We know it's the big one. That's what drives a lot of their revenue, but not most of it. We have sexual health, dermatology, mental health, hormone, longevity. We have a lot of other things, so we got to get more word on what's happening. Labs, I actually did this where you get your blood tested, and they have all these different biomarkers from your heart, your liver, your weight, immune defense, all this stuff, right? So get a few more numbers about what's going on with that. This guy Schultz, I don't know how to say his first name, so I call him this guy. This guy Schultz, he worked for nearly 3 decades at Novo Nordisk, and he is basically their international guy. I believe in him. He's been working at Novo Nordisk for 3 decades, and he knows his stuff. Their monthly revenue per average subscriber went up to $83. That was a 28% year-over-year increase. It was, so that's good, right? We want that to continue to go up. As you can see, the revenue was continuing to go up since fiscal year 2020, right? It was every year the revenue was going up very well, right? But when you see the monthly revenue per subscriber, it wasn't going up nearly as much, which is very interesting, right? So I do hope that they can really drive that number up now that they are just more popular, more in, household name kind of a thing. And their marketing is done very well, and that they're offering services that cost a lot of money. I've already spent, I think, almost $1,000 on them, right? I mean, I've spent at least probably $83 per month within just a month already. I am already above basically that, I'm going to be. All it's going to take is one more purchase, and I need to, and I have to. That's what happens when you're on a prescription. Number 4, profitability and margins. The Q1 adjusted EBITDA is expected to be $35 to $55 million, pressured by seasonal investments like the Super Bowl ad, which, whatever, it's seasonal, but we should expect that every year now. So it's not that, it's whatever. Analysts are also monitoring gross margins, which contracted to 72% in late 2025 due to shifts in sales mix and new product launches, with Novo and all that stuff. Margins is going to be a big talk. They're expected to lower gross margins as the company shifts away from selling their high-margin compounded medications to lower-margin branded drugs like the Novo Nordisk, right? The primary reason is the fundamental shift in Hims' roles from a producer, where they're basically producing it and distributing it themselves, to now just a straight distributor of these third-party products. You have a loss of pricing power, so now they can't set their proprietary prices on their drugs. Higher cost of goods. Now as a distributor, you have to pay Novo Nordisk for these medications. Lower take rate, right? The margins do decline a little bit. And then discontinued advertising, you have to change your whole advertisement. Whether it was them saying, oh, this, it's just like the other drug, or the compound, like now, no compound, now it's just straight Wegovy. So they have to change their whole marketing, everything. The financial trade-off from going from a compounded, pharmacy basically, to now you're using the branded Novo Nordisk. The gross margin, you had a higher gross margin when you were doing it yourself. Now you're lower and you get the distribution fees. Regulatory risk was higher when you had the compounded. Now it's lower. That's good, right? Because now it's FDA approved. Supply chain, though, you had your self-managed pharmacies when you were doing it yourself, and now you are dependent on Novo Nordisk. And then the user price as well used to be about $50, and now it's about $150. So that changes things. Key things to watch in that is their margins, it leaves them little room for error if their marketing costs keep going. Hopefully their marketing costs don't have to go up as much since now they actually have Wegovy. That kind of does its own marketing, right? Customer retention, moving patients from $50 a month to $150 might cause some people to leave because that is a big difference. And then competitive pressure. Now Hims does not appear to have the preferential pricing, right? Now they can't just like make their own choices. Now they are dependent on Novo. So that does kind of help the competition a little bit. So what do I think the stock price is going to do? Well, if you've watched Hims at all, you do know it's volatile. The last two earnings, before I go over these big spots right here, the last two earnings, it didn't really do much. Right here, it was already on its way down when they announced their earnings. It was already on its way down after the Novo drama. There was already stuff going on. The FDA had already lifted the shortage. So Hims was already in a bad spot. The story, nothing of the story changed. And then over here, their very last earnings, they were in the lawsuit with Novo. So it was already at a low point, had nowhere to go. This big spike was due to them making the Novo deal. But when you can see over here, this is when they announced earnings. And I think, they had announced one Novo deal back here, and then it got canceled. And then over here, you announced something, right? It can go up like crazy. This is not just because it had these two earnings these last two earnings weren't exciting in terms of the stock price. It didn't really make any major moves because of earnings. It can make moves. I mean, this thing went from 40 in the low 40s to 72 back to the low 40s. Then it was at the high 20s and it jumped all the way to the 60s. And then it went over here from high 40s, low 50s up to high 60s, right back down. So this thing can jump up a lot. So expect volatility. There's also a lot of shorts. We have 32% basically shorted. That's about 70 million shares that are shorted. Same thing, right? 70 million and around 33%. This is Robinhood. Regardless of the numbers, they are so close. It's still a lot of shares shorted. So that could mean a nice pump. Now, this is what I do think will happen. I do think this stock will go up eventually. Now there could be some of these more speed bumps, but at the end of the day, I do think Hims is going to improve a lot. I think the stock price is going to go up. I think the business is going to be continuing to get better, and I think their financials are going to get better once they, get over all the investments that they've done. They're doing a lot of investment for the future, and when you're in medication, it takes a lot of money. So that's what they're doing. Peptides. I believe the peptides are going to be the future. With the meeting happening, and then, with them buying the peptide manufacturing facility, and then CEO Andrew Dodum saying they're basically going to be a peptides business in about 12 months. I have confidence that they're still going to continue to move on new products and capitalize on that. So this is what I expect the stock price to do. Maybe not this exact era. It's not going to end up around in the high 40s by June. It could, but I do expect the stock to continue to go up from here. I don't expect it to go any lower at all, So yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate anyone who is still watching. I actually had a technical glitch and I had to start this whole video over. So I appreciate anyone who's watching. Please give a like and subscribe. And yeah, if you're aware and prepared, you're not scared. When Hims was crashing, I was never scared. I was aware and prepared. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep buying. I did think the Novo lawsuit was going to last longer, and it didn't. So whatever. I wish I'd picked up more cheaper shares, but at the end of the day, I've just continued to buy every week and of different stocks. That's what I do. I have a $100,000 challenge that I do. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. Yeah, never forget to earn it, save it, invest it, buy low, sell high. I want assets, not liabilities, and you can count on compounded interest.